I'm going to declare a quorum, and I will call the City of Groton Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, October 22nd, 2019 to order. Clerk Patrick, please call the roll.
Present are Mayor Keith Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Jamal Beckford, Councilors Lisa McCabe, Reginald Stanford, Guinevere Depot, Minerva Ortiz, Finance Director Ron Newhouse, Clerk Deborah Patrick, excused is Councilor Rashad Carter.
Okay, thank you. We will start with 762, which is the Thames River Gateway Twin Sculptures. Wendy, if you could come up. This is Wendy Berry from the Culture, from the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition.
So I'm gonna walk you through a presentation about a concept that is we'd love your feedback on at the end of this. I'm Wendy Berry. I'm the Executive Director of the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition. A little bit about us, just in case you don't know who we are. We are this region's Arts and Cultural Coalition. We are here to contribute to the cultural identity, economy, and quality of life of this region by advocating and supporting arts, heritage, cultural, and business activities. We serve all 22 towns and cities in the region, primarily in London County. And we are this region's designated regional service organization for the Office of the Arts to support the Department of Economic and Community Development. We're one of 9 of the regional service organizations in the city. We serve more than 500 partners across the region, from museums to performing arts organizations, historical societies, and creative businesses, and individual artists. These are some of the things that we do in terms of programs and services. But our core values are to connect, collaborate, and communicate. We're 6 years old, our organization. So our home in this region is really home to world-class museums, nationally recognized performing and visual arts centers, caretakers of local and regional and national history and heritage, innovative creative businesses, and a huge amount of talented musicians, artists, and designers. Our 500 partners, actually 550 partners across the region, really make up this robust and vibrant creative economy that has a ripple effect on quality of life, tourism, economic development, health and wellness, and community vitality. We're going to be talking about public art tonight. And currently in this region, there is no major monumental public art. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. The role of public art in general is to enhance and activate public spaces. It's used to express community identity and uniqueness and to contribute to revitalization and economic development efforts. We use public art to engage the community and encourage social interaction, and it's also used to support artists and creative endeavors, so paying the artists to do great work. Public art can really be large, visible, major tourist destinations, and it can also be small and seamless and built into your local neighborhoods through murals, small sculptures, small statues. But it can really run the gamut in terms of how public art, how big and how small, and how visible and how invisible it can be. The impact of public art is that it creates a sense of place. It strengthens your community, it beautifies places and spaces, and it revitalizes cities and neighborhoods. It also boosts tourism, and it certainly generates economic impact. I'm going to show you a few examples of monumental, large-scale public art. Just to put it out there, we're not going there. I'm just going to show you some of the major benefits of when you talk about big scale. This is the gates in New York City. There's temporary and there's permanent public art. Temporary means it's only there for a short period of time, sometimes 2 days, sometimes 6 weeks. But in general, it's there while it lasts. Go see it while you can. This is the Gates by Christo. He did it essentially, it was on view for 16 days. It was a multi-million-dollar project, but over the course of those 16 days, 4 million people came and saw the gates. It was $254 million in economic impact, and if you were in New York City and Central Park during that time, it was insane. I was lucky to be able to see it, but this gives you an idea of what large-scale temporary public artwork can do for a city. This is just a view of walking through it. Another project in New York City is Discovering Columbus. This also is a temporary project. If you're familiar with Columbus Square, Columbus Circle in the city, and a large Columbus statue that's about, I don't know how many stories up, they actually built a living room around it to help people be familiar with a statue that's been there for a very, very, very long time that most people had not ever experienced. And in the course of 12 weeks, they had 100,000 visitors and millions in economic impact. This was the inside of it. And you really got up close with something that you would see every day but never actually quite had an experience with. So it changes the way we interact with places. The newest and kind of biggest one that's out here right now, if you have not been to New York City in the past year, Hudson Yards has opened up. It is the largest private real estate development in the United States. It's housing, it's offices, it is shopping, it's culture, it's restaurants, you name it, they have it. It is an enormous, if you have been there, it's quite phenomenal. And in the center of Hudson Yards is this pretty ginormous sculpture called the Vessel. It's interactive. It has timed tickets. It's a $150 million project. It is now the #1 top destination in New York City in terms of selfies and tourist visitation other than the High Line. It's pretty remarkable to see this vessel, so I definitely encourage you to go check it out at some point. It did just open up, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, 6 months ago. That's what it looks like from the street. It's just a static piece of public art that you can walk up and it stares to nowhere. You just walk around it, but you can have incredible views. So let's change a little bit from temporary and large monumental to kind of Connecticut and looking at how public art is utilized here. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the Frog Bridge in Willimantic. This is a permanent public art installation. It spans the Willimantic River, and it connects 2 parts of the city, primarily Route 66 and 32. And it's based on an old tale of Battle of the Frogs, which became the official town seal. The town essentially decided to kind of own this seal of the frogs and turn it into a sculpture. And Willimantic is really known as the Frog Bridge place. A lot of people call it the Frog Bridge place. This is the most recent in Connecticut in terms of public art that has just opened up in the past 3 or 4 months, actually. This is the Beehive Bridge in New Britain. It transformed an entire transportation project, an overpass project, that actually the highway divided 2 parts of the city, and so they really had this open space on this overpass that really kind of disconnected these 2 parts of the city, and so they actually engaged and turned it into a kind of public space. It's still a transportation way, but they've engaged through a little park here inside and this pretty phenomenal bridge sculpture that was just put up and just opened up recently, and that's celebrating also their history as the Bee City. And that's what their opening looked like. And it's got 2, I think it was 4 lanes, I'm trying to remember, it was 4 lanes, and it had also these large, and now it's active. They have events there, they have things taking place on top of the Beehive Bridge, and lots of things going on. So that just wanted to give you an idea of kind of public art in general, right? The economic impact, the social interaction, the scale of it, and then bring you some this concept that's kind of developed. This is Renee Rhodes right here. She is the artist. This is her concept. This is her idea. These are her artworks. But I wanted to tell you a little bit more about them. The idea at this point is conceptual. There is no request for the city to provide money for anything moving forward. This is just an idea that has come forth that we're looking for support. It really aligns with the Thames River Heritage Park, this growing relationship between Groton and London, the Thames River Innovation Place, the water taxi. And the idea is twin sculptures on either side of the Thames River, one in London and one in the city of Groton. This will further connect the cities, provide benefit to the entire region, and serve as a gateway to the Thames River, and primarily serve the maritime traffic. And this is ours. A little bit about Renee. She's a Connecticut-based sculptor. She works in bronze. She's exhibited throughout New England, and she has 2 public art installations here in the region. She's also from the area. One in the London Hygienic Art Park, and the other one is also in the city of New London. It's part of the Municipal streetscape, the municipal parking lot that was put up, so you can pass it on Eugene O'Neill. So she's a well-known artist and beloved in the region. So this is not to scale, obviously, right? They're not that close together on either side, but the idea is large-scale twin sculptures on either side of the river to really create this gateway and to mark the entrance to the Thames River, and a little bit more about it. They take advantage of the unique natural environment. This is a beautiful spot for sculptures like this. They would create an iconic sense of place and destination. It would form the gateway to the cities and the entire region. And we do think about including along the way how you can connect Norwich, Preston, Salem, other towns along through the Thames River, and not just think of this as a local project, but something that would have benefit to the whole region. It's a visual, a symbolic, or a symbol of collaboration and partnership between the cities, but it really does add value to those 1 million visitors that travel along the Thames River every year on everything from submarines to ferries and yachts and boats, and especially even at events like the fireworks show. So the concept that Renee has kind of come up with, and we'll say a little bit more, these are 30-foot high monumental bronze sculptures. They're 15-foot high, the figures themselves. They're each holding a 10-foot high infinity loop The name of them is actually Guardians of Infinity. So think of them as guardians on the water, which is something neat. And then on a 5-foot-high base. They would mirror each other on either side, visible from land and from sea, and illuminated at night. The Groton side would be Eastern Point Beach, and in London there's actually a small island that's currently private that there's discussion about moving that into a trust that would then become the site for the it's almost a clay trust, right? And so that owner of that is agreeable moving forward. This was something that she had helped us to push forth as well. This originally was a concept of having it on one side of the river, and then came about with why not turn this into two and actually make this something much bigger, make it the gateway. So these are conceptual images that Vinny Scrana from Hygienic, he's been gracious enough to provide them with mock-ups of what it might look like. Things to consider, and Renee has some photographs you can pass around so you can get a little bit closer view.
This is, just pass these around, you guys can take a little bit of.
So some of the things that have been considered already. So Renee has a team, right? So she has manufacturers, fabricators, engineers, all the things that would be required to think about making sure they don't blow over in the wind, making sure the hurricanes don't get to them, all the things that would need to be addressed. And we understand that there would be a lot of challenges involved, but these are not insurmountable. Issues of public safety, access to electricity, public parking. The thought about the beach area was that during the summertime when you have a fee to get into the beach, drive them to the Thames River water taxi. That is the accessible way to see them if people wanted to see them as a destination. Therefore, the art is always accessible to all and not fee only. And then in the off-season, when there is no fee, you can technically make them open to the public and free of charge. On the other side of the water, they would not be accessible to get to, would only be on view from the water or nearby areas. So it's on a small island. The goal of these is not to become a place for people to go to and climb on. The idea is to really get close enough that they can take pictures or view them from the water, but not to be something that they would be a playground of sorts. Right? Because public art never wants to be that way. So things to think about moving forward are, of course, the districts, the zoning, city regulations, neighborhood impact, all the things that go along with public art that we're aware of. But you have a team with Art Renee who leads the team on making sure that the sculptures themselves would be appropriate in all ways, shapes, and forms, and then you have a team of people here and other places to help us understand what it would take to get to yes. And so really what we're here is to do is to show you some of those potential benefits and then get some feedback. Obviously there's local and regional economic impact. This just drives people to the area. There's lots you can make this as big or small as the city or town would like to do it. New London is very much in support of this project. A tourism destination, water taxi ridership increase, truly creating a sense of place and identity for the Thames River in this region, which I don't think we actually have. We all know ourselves as Southeastern Connecticut. That's pretty much what people write, or Mystic, which we can change. But it becomes this public symbol. But really the potential to link towns and cities and regions around the Thames River and extend that benefit to all the other areas and really have this become the gateway and the anchors to the region. So what we're looking for is feedback in terms of support. There's no point in moving this project forward for a full budget and a breakdown of all the things that would be required unless there's a desire for this project to be in this community. So we're just looking for immediate concerns, feedback about public art, feedback about whether or not this is something that the community would want to see, and we would continue to explore. And Renee would put her team, she has a team, and we can say, come back, but then think about all the things that would need to take place in order to have this come to fruition.
Okay, one of the things that we've talked about in the past is economic development in the city, and this is one of the things that would contribute to that. This would go to the sense of place, go to a destination location to bring people into the city, and while they're here in the city, then they can go to the stores and the shops that we're going to have down on Thames Street and at Five Corners as part of the economic development. There are a couple hurdles that we would have to get over. The first set of hurdles is whether or not the council can be fundamentally supportive of this. And like Wendy said earlier, you may not have heard this, but there is no cost to the city for an installation of this artwork. And then we would need to, before it gets installed, we would need to talk about maintenance plans and who would maintain it, how would it be maintained, and those kind of things. Because we want this to be a win for everybody and minimize the downside risk. The other thing is we will definitely need to get the historic district involved and the EPPOA involved since it's going to be down in that area. We have had a staff meeting where we have discussed the potential hurdles that we see here. How do you get power to it? Would it be solar? Would it be hardwired? Obviously, we're going to need structural engineering studies done and those kind of things, because for those of you that were around for Hurricane Sandy, we realized what the wind and the waves and those kind of things, the impact could be. And then there's other things that we've talked about as well. But overall, I and staff see this as a positive thing, but we wanted to bring it to you and get your input on it and your feedback. So with that, I open it to the council. Deputy Mayor Beckford.
So, I generally think it's fundamentally a good idea to have placemaking, destinations, waypoints in the city, things that, make us unique, as well as on the river. I feel like it's sort of like underutilized, having maybe monuments or art installations facing the river. I think it's a pretty neat idea, and I'm fundamentally for it.
Councilor Depot.
I just wanted to add, I think the water taxi is probably, it's only been a few years, and I think it's good to add more attractions and reasons to go on the water taxi, because everyone I know that has taken it has enjoyed it, so I think to draw more attention to it is a really great idea.
Okay. Any other councilors? Councilor Batiste?
I have a question. I seen some art pieces that are supposed to be bronze, but with time they turn bluish.
Patina.
That doesn't, to me, doesn't look really. It doesn't look good. So are they gonna turn that? I mean, like that, or because I would like to see something bright, not.
Well, that's definitely something we can talk about. That's a patina that's kind of classic. It's like the Statue of Liberty patina, and it's patinaed like that. The problem when you keep it bright is it turns black. It's really hard to maintain, and it takes like every year it would have to be sandblasted and resealed. And so it's very difficult to keep it that bright color, and I've made that mistake several times.
I didn't know, so I knew that with time it would turn, but I didn't know, so okay, thank you.
It would be great for a while though. And then turn the patina, it would stay in the patina condition.
Sure. Councilor.
So,
Okay.
is a normal process is you handle the installation, and then the city or the town will take on the maintenance going forward? Is
There
that?
is no normal process for this region.
Okay, all
I've
right.
done this before.
All right.
So our role at this point is to support projects like this, but certainly I get requests all the time for public art in local cities and neighborhoods and funding for it, which is not available in general. So there's a lot of things just in terms of the fundraising that goes behind this fiscal agent who's going to manage all the pieces
Okay.
that would need to be figured out along the way. I've mentioned to Renee in the past, name of the region or organization, the idea of a public art fund for this region would really be of value. And that's something that literally raises money to allow for funding for public art projects, small, big, small, in neighborhoods and pockets and grand scale. But all of those details, this is not the first time this has ever been done. We would simply look to many models around the United States and look for the one that we could say we can use this here in terms of maintenance, or this in terms of ownership, this in terms of, and we'd have to build it as we go along.
I think it's a really great idea. That I like the locations that you chose, because people have to go all the way through the city of Groton to get there, and they're going to see something else they might like on the way, hopefully. So I think it's a really neat idea.
I have a question.
Councilor Shepherd.
in regards to the implementation of it, how long would this process take? A year, 2 years? Or is this like a 5-year project?
No, it would take me about a year to produce both of them.
Okay.
But then we've got to get all the installation and the site work done. So I would say a fair estimate would be a year and a half
Okay.
after we got the funding.
And so add in the fundraising.
Right.
So that would be the part that we would be focused on, right? All of that is by a competent team who you all would have trust and confidence and can provide all of that. Our concern would be so the next step would really be for Renee to dig in with her team and come up with a budget. What would this cost?
Okay.
And then also thinking about the implications of the city. What else do you all need at the site in order to make it happen? Is there guardrails? Is there lighting? Is there adding all of those things in place? The fundraising piece would then determine how long it would take. But then you hear from end of fundraising, or usually 3/4 of the way or 2/3 of having fundraising, you can usually start the project. Then is when she could get going and actually have installation. But that would be the piece that would be the unknown quantity of this.
I just wanted to add something about the site. Those pictures represent actually 3 different sites out at Eastern Point. One of them's kind of in the middle of the parking lot and at the edge, and the other one is closer to the Tyler house. And the advantage of that is it's on rock, so you don't have to pay all the money for the footings. And it could be, you could put a fence continuing the guardrails there, and it's visible from the sea. So it's a very, very dramatic location. It's not all the way out, I just want to explain, because that jetty's out further. This is the one closest to land. There's more rock beyond it. This is the middle one. This is the one in the middle of the parking lot, and the disadvantage of this is that you can't see it from sea. So both these rocks are better than putting it on the parking lot because you have more elevation for flooding and stuff. So between that and the one in the middle, it's a choice. Just want to explain that.
It's nice because the one on our side of the river, people can actually go see, get up close to
It
it.
would be the selfie place.
Yeah.
Unless you run a boat, if you run a boat, ideally you'd be able to see both of them. But the other one, for sure, is not, it's behind a private home. We have our own hurdles to cross on the other side of the water, very different challenges on the other side of the river. But the homeowner and the island owner is supportive of us. So
That's great.
The idea was to light the infinity loop, so that that's all you see when you come in at night is just 2 floating infinity loops, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So just initially and fundamentally, philosophically rather, is this something that the council could get behind, support?
Yes.
I didn't even see the
Yes.
presentation and I like it.
Check off that. Can you help us to identify any other concerns that we might need and want to address early on in private conversations or quiet conversations before we kind of go in specific to Groton?
Can I preface this with I am not an artist at all, and I do but I do appreciate art. And what is the idea to make them like identical? Could they
They're
be
the
like
exact
mirror?
same sculptures.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because it's very, very expensive to enlarge them and make molds, and so to have them be mirror images of each, not mirror, but reciprocal images of each other is the best way to go.
Gotcha.
But what was your point?
No, I was just wondering if they could be. I mean, obviously like complementary, but
Male and
different.
female, or?
Just different.
You could, it would double the price tag.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Never mind.
I just figured
A
I'd.
gateway, though, a gateway usually does
Right.
have the exact
Same.
same
Sure.
side.
But we went through that. I designed several of them to go together, and then we came back to this and it was like, this kind of felt more balanced.
Okay.
It's a good point.
Thank you. That's
Hear more about
just a question.
Any other,
concerns? Any organizations you would recommend? We kind of have our list, things over Heritage Park, the Homeowners Association, any other kind of first stops that you would recommend?
Wendy,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Renee, thank you.
You're welcome.
Here we
This
go.
is exciting.
Okay.
Where are we going next?
I need a motion to enter into executive session
Oh, no, go for it.
pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206 Delta to discuss sale of real estate,
So moved.
to include the council and, turn it to Claire, and Dennis Godere.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're in executive session. Okay, we are out of executive session. We are back into the committee of the whole. We're going to 6:55, which is department presentations. We'll do the C.O.W presentation first, then we'll do resiliency. These are informing. Sierra, if you could, I think everybody here knows Sierra Patrick, our economic development specialist. Okay, the floor is yours.
So, just here for you tonight to present that the city of Groton is an award or recently certified for best practices in economic and land planning. So this was initiated by, the Connecticut Economic Development Association, just to really kind of highlight communities that are actually actively engaged in some of these best practices and really move forward in our, just development process, like how we permit, like the process of permitting applications and so forth. So it was an opportunity. They created like a evaluation rubric for us to use in the toolkit. So it was really great for us to just reevaluate our existing strategies. And I just wanted to highlight a few of the strengths that we had. So for communications, our social media account, Use for us has been doing a terrific job on getting information out there. So I just wanted to highlight that. Also, the city is participating in a lot of regional economic development initiatives, things where innovations, place, sector, we do a lot of partnership and collaboration with them on a few things. We have a pre-application review process, and I just like to thank planning and zoning, building, fire, for all basically coming together and meeting with applicants beforehand to really flesh out their ideas and so they can understand what our process is and next phases. Also, Mr. Godere just recently completed a land use development guide that is on our website. That is an amazing tool for communities to actually kind of help them go through that process a little bit more. Our EDC and myself are working on our business retention and extension program, and that's it. And you can have it, so that's been great. Some opportunities from the process, maybe some online permitting options. The city recently created a communications team. Saw some interest there, maybe trying to highlight or start to research what that would look like in the city. Also, including our website interface, like how people actually engage and utilize the city website. We want to improve that. And then in the coming months, you guys will be hearing more about an economic development strategy. So all these were just areas of opportunity that were highlighted through doing this process as well. So we were 1 out of 24, and in our region, 1 out of 3. So just wanted to
So we were
Yeah.
24 out of 169 towns got this award. And locally, it was the city of Groton, the town of Groton, town of Stonington, and the city of Norwich. That's local, I mean, within a stone's throw, for lack of a better term, but locally. So we now have an award-winning economic development specialist out of the city of Groton. So thank you for what you do. Okay, resiliency, Dennis, if you want to bring the mic and come up. I'm back.
Good evening. I'd like to give you a brief overview of what we are working on from a coastal resiliency
perspective within the city. As some of you may know, that back in January 2019, we adopted the latest plan of conservation and development for the city. In that plan had called for various measures for understanding resiliency and our vulnerabilities as being a coastal community, and also had made the recommendation of establishing a coastal vulnerability working group, and I'll talk about that in a moment. What we did initiate earlier in the year, and the final report was provided in your packet, was we were approached by Adam Welchel from the Nature Conservancy, who's a lead scientist and very active in coastal resiliency, not only nationally but even doing international work. And they've been hosting workshops with communities throughout Connecticut. And they're called Community Resilience Building Workshops. He came in along with two of his staff members and conducted a workshop here in January. Members of staff, Electric Boat, Pfizer's, UConn, the Council of Government Sector, and some other organizations participated in this morning-long workshop to flesh out what some of the high-level key issues and concerns are from a vulnerability standpoint. The report is very brief. I encourage you to read it if you have a moment, but some of the top hazards that came out of that, there probably wouldn't be any surprise, but coastal flooding, which includes storm surges and sea level rise, storms, in general, extreme cold and intense wind events, and areas of concern being neighborhoods, ecosystems, transportation, infrastructure, and vulnerable populations. And if anybody's familiar with our hazard mitigation plan developed in 2017, it's in line with a lot of the items that were outlined there as well. Coming out of that, and it also was a recommendation which paralleled the plan of development, was to develop the Coastal Vulnerability Working Group. There was a resolution that was provided, and I also provided a suggested member list, which we can talk about if you have any further questions. But we would like to start moving forward with establishing that Coastal Vulnerability Working Group and establish it as an ad hoc committee. That would consist of various staff members from planning, building, fire, police, GU, economic development, public works, a council member, and a member from the town of Groton. And then we're listing some of the representatives from other organizations. Pfizer, Electric Boat, and UConn have already designated an individual they are interested in participating. Sector is also interested in participating. One of the important reasons to study this goes to the anticipated sea level rise of 20 inches that is expected to occur by 2050, which isn't that far away, especially when it comes to how financial planning and planning in general has to occur at any level, but even at a municipality level. That 20 inches wasn't just something arbitrarily. It was identified. It was based upon scientific facts that were and some assumptions that were identified by NOAA, which was the basis of a study done by Mr. O'Donnell from the University of Connecticut, who did further research to identify that 20 inches, which when you project it out further to 2100, perhaps could have a sea level rise as much as 6.5 feet. But the recommendation right now for communities in Long Island Sound is to plan for the year 2050 because it's a 30-year period. It's common. It's consistent with most mortgages as well. So it's the 30-year distance. So that's kind of where we're working from. We at the same time, when the workshop from the Nature Conservancy ended, as we started identifying the working group, there was a grant opportunity by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, specifically through the Long Island Sound Futures Fund, to provide grants to municipalities and nonprofits for any measures related to the preservation of Long Island Sound. Just to put it generally speaking, we did apply for a grant to fund a resiliency plan. That grant was submitted back in June. Since then, we've received favorable
feedback, and we are expected to hear a confirmation or one way or the other come Monday of next week. So I'm looking to establish and get the working group set up, so even if we didn't receive the grant, we can start working on resiliency in an organized manner, consistent with our plan of development, and move that effort forward. With that, I would open it up for any questions.
Okay, questions or comments? Okay, in that case, I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4/2019.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, we'll be doing 728, space needs discussion, building and zoning. Carlton, if you could come up.
720?
So for, just to get started, some of the newer members of the council, this is the space needs assessment that was conducted last year. Some of the members that were here from before may remember this. We talked about, there was a space needs study that was done. One of the things that was discussed was potentially either building up or building out. The price tag to that was about $5.4 million. And either 5.4 or 4.5, but anyway, internally we evaluated and we didn't think that the taxpayers or the ratepayers or the freemen would authorize that funding, so we said, okay, we need to figure out what we're doing here. We had the credit union that was occupied downstairs. They have moved over into where the old Benny's used to be, that plaza over there, and they have expanded. That made that vacant. We cleaned it up. We did some mold remediation and other things, so now it's ready. We have talked about moving different groups, and right now the group that's going to go down there is the building inspector group. And then what that will do is that will free up other offices, and then we're going to be basically, once we get this one done, we'll get it occupied, and then that'll free up the offices, and then we'll be coming back to you to talk about remediation of those offices. And what some of that is just going to be painting and then evaluating whether or not we can use the existing furniture if we need new furniture. But in some cases, we have carpet is going to need to be removed, and the flooring underneath is asbestos, and the mastic contains asbestos. So we'll need to have that remediation as part of it. So as the initial one is moving Carlton and his group down first, and then as we come to the others, we'll be bringing them to you one at a time as we go along. So with that, Carlton, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, hopefully in your packet you did get a couple of pictures like this. Good, good. So this is what we'd like to turn the credit union into, the old credit union into the building office. What you see is what is needed to be done. So what you're not seeing is, such as in this picture here, is that you're not seeing there's an office in here. There's nothing that needs to happen inside that office on there. And also there's a bathroom over here on this side, and nothing needs to happen in the bathroom, so we didn't draw that picture on there. What you see dark in the pictures is what we're purchasing on there. So I am, through the Wyndham Corporate Interiors LLC, which is a company that Groton Utilities have used to do some of the customer service area down there. We called them, and we found that they had the best price of three different companies. One company was a modular company, rather than not just say their names out loud, but they were modular companies, and they came in at $17,845 just for a very simple, and they could not put doors on there, they could just put sliding doors. Their corporation did not have the availability to create the security barrier that we're trying to create down there for our employees, and hard doors on there. We went to a private contractor, a local contractor, who could rough frame the piece in, and then I would have to get an electrician to rough wire the whole piece in, and then he'd sheetrock it, and then we still had to go out and get paint and glass. So by the time we got done with that bid, it was more than what was this Wyndham Corporation Interiors, which is also including some furniture. The reason we bought some of the furniture and not taken some of the furniture, very minimal, just 2 rooms out of the 5 rooms that we're creating down there, is that the furniture all looks the same. That happened that the guy that, when the credit union, we purchased the furniture when they left, was the same corporation and can match that furniture very close, so it looks like it's all the same down there. The bid came in at $16,000. I left that paper in the other room. I did all the figures on it because I was in a meeting from prior to this, 5 to 6. That bid came in at $16,600. If you add 10 to 15% contingency on top of that, I added 12.5. You're at $18,000, and we put $4,000 in for the miscellaneous electrical. When you get the walls up, you're going to have to move the lights left and right. They're just never going to be in the right spots. And then the walls come with electricity already in them, these prefab walls. So we got to put what we call a couple of whips in to tie in that electrical portions inside the prefab walls. I thought we'd get a pretty good rendition of the drawing so you could kind of see what that space could turn into down there. It's not all the space we need, but it's gonna work out. Remember, we're going to expand for a while, and then at some point, maybe 4 years from now, we're going to contract because of, we hope not to. That means we're still busy working on stuff, but because of the Building 600 electric boat, we've obviously hired Kevin Quinn, which you've probably seen a newspaper article in there in the paper, and we've hired another part-time person who's Scott Reagan, who's working 1 day a week with us in the residential section. We do have some, as the mayor will probably have another meeting sometime, we'll inform you, we have some pretty good sized projects that are tipping on our table, and we need to have the people ahead of time. You can't hire someone that day and bring them up to speed, so we're doing a little slowly on that. So, and we're going to be bringing in a document manager, temporary person to help us through some of the all the paperwork that we got to rescan in on there. So we're going to put 6 people down there in a space that's pretty tight, and some files. So we harness the best use out of that space.
Okay, questions or comments from the council? Councilor Ortiz,
Why are we expanding out of the building?
why are we or why are we not?
Why are we? This is gonna go where Benny's was, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
The credit union moved from downstairs over to Benny's. The credit
Okay.
union space is now open, they're just moving downstairs.
Gotcha.
So they're staying in the confines of the building.
Oh, okay.
Currently, we were in 3 locations within the building. We're trying to get everybody, at least the
Oh,
building
wow.
office, in one space.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4/2019.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Carlton.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5, we're going to do 561, which is Groton Utilities Financials. This is informing. Everybody have their,
561.
are we there? Okay, Ron?
And again, seeing we're early in the year, we'll just kind of keep it very, very brief and just a high level. There's really nothing that jumps out at this point, so we'll kind of just walk through them. We'll start off on page 3, which is for the electric division. You see on line 19, the total electric revenue is budgeted for 12.9 million. We're roughly at 12.8, 117,000 under budget. That was due to a cooler September, and which allowed there wasn't as much electricity being used. So it's just the amount of electric was a little bit. If you remember when we do the budget for the revenue, it's based off of the prior year actuals. So just we had less electricity being used in that first quarter. So this actually represents the first quarter of the year. Line 41, the total operating expenses, budget of 13.6 million. The actual to date about 13 million, so 676,000 under budget. The net income from operations, the budget was 1.1 million. We're currently at 1.5 million, so 385,000 to the good in comparison to the budget. So you see there the shortfall in the revenues, but you'll see in the operation and maintenance, which is line 30, it's actually 491,000 under budget currently. Just kind of a quick of electric right now. There's nothing that jumps out as worrisome or way off. Like I said, we just with the total revenue, it's really as a percentage only 0.9% below budget. So,
Any questions on electric?
No.
Any water?
on water, so we'll jump to page 8. And again, this is to the fiscal year to date for the water. Line 17, the total water, actually we'll go to line 21, total revenue, budget of 3 million, and we're right on 3,026,000 under budget again, 0.9%. And that's basically due to less usage. There was the rate increase, but there was less used during that period, mainly by the residential and commercial customers, with the industrial kind of picking up on using more than budgeted. Line 30, the total operating expenses, budgeted 2.7, roughly about 2.3 in expenditures, or 393,000 under budget, 14.7%. Go to line 44, which is the net earnings before the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund grant. The budget amount we had at 70,297. We're currently at 705,000, or 635,000 to the good. And again, you can see in the operating and maintenance, that is the major variance from the expenditure side, which is 388,000 under budget. And then the other driver is in the other income and deductions. That's the grant for the interconnects. That's
Anything else on water? Okay, sewer?
so we'll jump to page 13. Now that we're a year and a quarter into the sewer, as you've heard me say pretty much every time we've gone through it, the sewer is pretty much relative to water. So when you look at the revenues, our total revenue for the sewer was budgeted at 994, and it came in at 1,000,006, so it's actually over. And again, that's just driven by that industrial customer. When you look at it, you'll see the residential is in line with the water usage for residential and commercial, but the industrial really drove the sewer in this current quarter. Line 26, the total operating expenses, budgeted 765,000, actuals 575, 190,000 under budget. Again, mainly driven by the operation, the maintenance coming in under budget. Line 37, the net income from operations, the budget amount 173,000. We're currently at 454,000, or 281,000 to the good at this point in time. So it's just, again, kind of a high overview of all three. There's nothing that jumps out as of concerns at this point.
Sure. Ron, can I just ask you a quick question?
Sure.
When it comes to industrial for the sewer division, are you going to adjust that at the end of next or this fiscal year?
So
To
when we do the budget for next year,
Sure.
what we look at is we actually take the prior year's actual, then if there's any rate changes or anything like that,
Gotcha.
it goes through.
all right, thank you.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the water usage is actually back on target this year for the industrial customers, and the prior year was low, which drove the budget numbers down. I believe is what Aaron, I think that's when Aaron looked into that.
Well, right, if you remember, so let me just remind everybody, this is our second year into this. The first year with the forecast, we were 30% under budget on the forecast. There were some deduct meters that we did not take into account. Now with 1 year, this budget was based off of the 1 year actual data that we did have, and that's where we're going from now. As we go further, we'll be able to gather the data and then do an average and figure out what the budget's going to be. and hopefully get better every year at determining what our numbers are going to be.
Sure.
And it's truly fluctuation. Like I said, I think
Yep.
the prior year was a load for the industrial, which then brings the budget down in the new fiscal year, and then when you have the month where it goes back to normal.
Right. Any questions on sewer? Okay, so that's it. We're going to go to number 6 is going to be 742, which is the Groton Utilities resolutions. 742, let me get there. First one is, my book is a mess here. The first one is change order 8. So we have 3 change orders, 8, 9, and 10, but we'll go through them one at a time.
We can, except we only put the change order contingency summary in once with the first one.
Okay, that's fine.
Remember that for all of them. So with the current, Ray updated this to the current version of all the change orders that he can envision coming in. This is getting updated routinely now, so this I think Ray may have another version this morning where he's moving money. But at this point, we had about $250,000 left on contingency, which in the scale of things, being a $50 million project is not that much money, as much as it sounds like a lot of money. And then the change order 8 is actually related to having to install a new manhole where they thought that they weren't going to have to add a new manhole. They were going to reuse the old one.
Okay, any questions on this?
I just want to ask one more time. Are we just talking about the first one?
We're talking about change order 8, yeah. Because I'm going to need 3 motions, 8, 9, and 10, to move them to the mayor and council of 11-4.
You can ask a
Do
question
you
on
want,
that.
if, do you,
You know, just the last time this came up, I just asked because you made a comment about the amount that we have in contingency. I would just like to make sure that we are just being responsible and really thinking ahead, because some of the contingency had to do with abatement, pollution abatement on buildings. When I've heard part of the building was created in the 30s and then in the 50s, etc. I feel like abatement is something that we should have been on top of and we should have been aware of, but mistakes happen. But I'd like to make sure that we don't run into something as simple as pollution abatement of a building that was created in 1930s, and everybody understands that. I don't want to trip on a landmine like that again and just have $250,000 left to operate with. So I would just like to ask you, do you feel like have we looked under every rock? How do you feel about the amount that we have left in relation to the rest of the project? Are we going to see anything like that again?
I'm going to chime in and actually agree very much. I mean, the mayor spoke at length on this last time, and I'm going to back him up on that. I don't think $250,000 at this point in the project is a lot of money at all. Do I believe there's a lot of risk? The risks are kind of exactly what he set out before. We have a dirt pile that very much may have to leave, and that could be very expensive. That's not scoped into any of the current pricing. That's the largest item that we're at risk for right now. We're also at risk as we negotiate through this, the PCBs with the state or the EPA with the way that they approve the final version of a plan and the way to encapsulate the PCBs. The PCB issue is it's a very high risk for the project right For other things, other than PCB related, I don't think there's that much risk. We're talking change orders in the order of magnitude of tens, 20s of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So you're just saying you don't think you're going to see anything on the order that we saw before with the PCBs?
I don't see another issue coming up that's an
No.
order of magnitude, anything like
Sure.
PCBs.
Not-
PCBs is the question mark on this project.
Nothing related to, again, a building created in the 1930s that, just things that we should be looking at, materials, the way that we...
So the obvious things, lead, we've already looked at that, right? No lead issues.
We have not found any lead.
Okay, asbestos.
I believe all that was dealt with. We didn't have any substantial asbestos. It's not a lot of insulation-intensive plant.
Okay, hold on. Any other heavy metals that might have been used either through an encapsulation process or colloidal stabilization of paint materials, those kind of things? Any of that?
No.
Okay, so PCBs is a big thing. If you look on here, the 1.3 million has not hit yet, right? That change order is still,
We have not processed that through either the DPH. The DPH and Ray are actually actively looking at it, investigating it. The drinking water section of the DPH is helping us because that part of deep is all related. There is a part of that part of deep that looks at PCBs, and they're further regulated by the EPA federal level, just like drinking water is. So
well, one of the things that I found out this week is that the project manager, is that true? CM, construction manager, had not reached out to the EPA yet, right?
I just found that out this morning.
They did not, the construction manager, we've been talking about PCBs for months, and they did not reach out to the EPA. We directed them to reach out to the EPA. Frustrated by that, that's new news, so we have not had an opportunity to get our arms around that, but I'm unhappy with what they're doing for us or not doing for us and the timeliness of it. Because in my mind, that goes back to proactiveness, which is a concern that you have.
Right.
What else have we not found yet? Now, the issue with the dirt that I brought up, Mount Valentini, or what is called affectionately down there, still needs to be sampled. So we got to sample that, and then there's a couple different things that can happen. One, it could be above the limit or it could be below the limit. If it's below the limit, it's not an issue. If it's above the limit, then a couple of things can happen. One, we may have to dispose of that. We don't even have a guess yet on how much that's going to cost. But that would not be attributed to this contract. That would be taken care of under another, that would be in the budget down the road. And we're going to eventually, you're going to know how much this project truly cost. In the end, we're going to say it cost $54 million because that's what we bonded. But also, you're going to know what the true cost is, which is things that we then had to budget that we didn't get completed under this. But the disposal is one option. Another option is to, if we can get EPA approval, is to bury it and cap it. And what I mean by that is that you bury it and you encapsulate it with a parking lot. Basically, you put an asphalt cap and you make it a parking lot, and then it is monitored periodically to ensure that we don't have runoff and anything like that. So there are still things that are ongoing. We are about 1 year away from completion. In theory, the plant should be put in operation in the spring. So the major things, meaning equipments, foundation work, hangers, all that stuff should all be done. So there should be a lot of extra construction going on, and the work that is being performed in the old part of the building should be almost complete. Based on that, I'm being told that there should not be a lot of extra items that are gonna be identified. Now, we obviously don't know what you're gonna put. As soon as you lift up a rock, I don't know what's gonna be underneath there.
Sure.
But my thing is, we're trying to get our guys active. Our guys are already actively involved, but you got the Ray Valentinis and Rick Stevens and Mike Fedors, right? Not Mike Fedors.
Mike Weber.
Mike Weber, sorry. I didn't say Mike Fedors, I meant Mike Weber. Mike Weber are actively engaged in this and are working with Stantec and are working with RHY to drive this.
Sure.
So I recognize your frustration. I am probably more frustrated about some of these things than you because I predicted them and now here we are. We are going to continue to drive this home and we are going to get this project done on time. I am committed to that, and we are committed.
I'm just going to reiterate this one more time, and then
Yep.
we'll leave it alone. We've seen, this isn't the first time we've seen a building come before us. We've Groton Heights,
Right?
Colonel Ledyard.
Yep.
When we're talking about old buildings, we're talking about abatement. That's
Yeah.
what it is. And so to come, to figure out this late in the game that, hey, this old building has this material that we can't use because it's cancerous or whatever, or these materials that we used to use in industry, like, I just don't understand why it came up so late. So we just need to keep our eyes open. I'd like everybody to have their eyes open and be thinking about, what else could possibly be there, just making sure that we've gone down the list, like the mayor said, the heavy metals, et cetera. Because
We have even brought in a third party
okay.
to do third-party oversight, and that started to shake a whole mess of things free right now at the moment. Not saying that's good or necessarily all that bad, but we have a third party evaluating all the hazardous right across the board, especially our approach to PCBs, because in the end, it's our building. Whether we have an engineer advising us or not, it's our building.
Right.
All right,
Councilor-
thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Depot.
I was just gonna say, I think I remember from the presentation we had last time that we're also looking to mitigate some cost possibly by, instead of having them performed by a contractor, having them brought in-house and performed by our own people, which could save us a little money in the end, which I think is a great idea to keep that in mind for, any of the things.
We are looking at what is referred to as cost-controlled measures. We're doing what we can to try to make sure we're going to be okay, but in the end, I will provide you with what the true cost of this building is, and to the public, so that you will know where we are and what we're doing here. Transparency is extremely important to me. Okay, anything else on this change order for change order 8? Okay, I need a motion to move this to mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Change order 9.
If you look at the actual state of Connecticut approval for each of them, they have a change order and they say what actually the item is and they define it. So change order 9 is additional cost for trade workers and equipment rentals that were incurred during the replacement of tank drain hole, manhole 3. It was segregated out separately from the cost of the manhole.
Okay, comments on change order 9? Hearing none, I need a motion to move this to mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Change order 10.
Change order 10 related to a change that they had to make because when they were doing excavation, there was silt that had to be excavated to create a firm ground structure to rebuild what they needed to put in. The silt wasn't firm enough. It's just, it was an unsatisfactory kind of soil. So that was the replacement to that.
Okay, comments on change order 10? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to move this to the mayor council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, tie sales.
Tie Sales has been coming here for, I think this is the 4th year in a row. It's at least 3 years, because I've brought it each year. We're in the process of scheduling replacement of all the old meters, the water meters. The old water meters may have had lead in them, so needed to be updated, plus over a certain amount of time they become inaccurate and need to just be replaced. So there was a capital project put in to do that replacement, and you'll see that there's a little chart that says total Neptune meters. This is the replacement schedule and how many have been done every year. And this purchase order is to buy this year's allotment of meters.
Comments on tie sales? Need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. C.O.W. sludge removal.
C.O.W. is the contractor that we use at the PAF to remove the sludge after it's actually the waste sludge that remains after we've digested through the digester. So it's the solids removal at the PAF. C.O.W. is actually the trucking company that takes that away and then takes care of it.
I have a question.
Councilman McCabe.
What is PIF?
PAF,
PAF.
Pollution Abatement
Oh, sorry.
Facility, the sewer plant.
Oh, okay, that's, it's late.
Nope, that's okay. You're right. Sometimes we throw acronyms around and we don't always verify. Any further discussion on that? If not, I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And amend the resolution to Altech.
The Alltech resolution is back quite a long time ago. We actually processed a bid, or it was the low price. We processed it, and then we awarded a purchase order to a local vendor, and the trucks were supposed to go to the Ford vendor, the chassis be supplied to Alltech to do the updates to make them bucket trucks. We have 2 new bucket trucks that they actually use for on-call. These bucket trucks were produced by Alltech. We've had them about 6 months. They finally made good on all the warranty work and everything. And then Alltech went to ask to be paid, and we discovered that they did not wait for the trucks to be supplied by Crowley Ford, where the chassis were supposed to come from. They actually supplied the chassis out of their own, forged just like what would have come from Crowley, but Crowley didn't want to be the middleman at that point anymore, so Alltech asked if we would cut the purchase orders directly to them at the same price and everything. So it's a change of issuing the purchase order to Alltech for the 2 trucks instead of Crowley Ford. Otherwise, the resolution would remain the exact same.
Any questions on that? Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to move it to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, that's 6. I think that's it for you. 7 is referrals. Number 1, appointments, Barbara Garrish to Legislative Health District.
I'm sorry, was that? Was this one?
What's that?
On the other side of the Altec one. Is that related? Oh, that was the old one.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Good, I wasn't ready. Okay, so we'll have, before you have 2, the first one is Barbara Garrish, and you may say, wait a minute, didn't we just do this? We did, we were behind, and we got her authorized, her term expires November 10th of this year, so it's a 3-year term, and so she's currently serving on the Legislative Health District Board. And then when we get to Ernie Kochmeter, it was identified that our population has increased and therefore we're authorized to have 2 members on the board, and that's where Ernie comes in. But the first one is on Barbara Garrish. Any discussion on that? Okay, now I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Kochmeter, when we found out about this, we put out a notice. There were 2 people from the public that applied. One had a nursing background and one was Ernie had a food service background. I called up Steve Mansfield and said, I have 2 candidates. I'm not going to tell you what their names are. I'm going to tell you what their qualifications are, which would better serve the Legislative Health District. And he said, we have a lot of people in the medical profession already. We really could use people in the food service industry, and that's why I'm bringing Ernie Kochmeter on board to you. And you probably know Ernie from the public schools, and he also oversees the concession stand at the beach. So, any questions or concerns on that? All right, I need a motion to move this to mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, number 8 is city budget presentations. This is an informational from Director Uhas.
This is just a one-page summary, and I want to apologize. The date on the top of it's October 31st, should be September 30th. It is for the quarter through. I'm not that good at predicting the future. Again, similar to the utilities, there's nothing that really jumps out, with the exception of one line, which is under the non-departmental, under the general insurance. You can see we had a budget of 110, and it's currently 153,019. We did switch insurance carriers during the year, so there was a change in billing and allocations. This is actually being reviewed, so this possibly may change and be reallocated to departments, because we get one bill which gets allocated across to different departments based on the vehicles, the property, and so forth. So this is something that needs to be reevaluated like that.
Councilor Depot.
Is the increase in across the board, or is it one
No.
particular insurance?
There was,
policy.
the actual policies were pretty much level. It was just an allocation. We allocate the insurance gets allocated to each department within the budget. Electric, water, sewer, they all have their portion of it. And this is kind of the catch-all when it's not sure where it goes, so it got coded here. And again, I am re-looking at the allocation and working with our insurance consultants to make sure it's properly allocated, or it really shouldn't be in just the general insurance. It should be going to a department.
But changing that's not going to change that it's more money than was budgeted.
It would
right?
this may get reallocated to a different department. So instead of, to this 153, that's a current
Okay.
expense, we just need to get the bill paid.
Yeah.
So a portion of it just kind of got put into this general ledger account until we get the true allocation internally done, and then we'll do a journal entry to reallocate it.
So it looks like we've overrun this budget item when in reality, once we properly allocate it, then it'll go to the
We
other.
may or may not.
Okay.
We're in the process of looking at that whole
Right.
allocation with the
Right.
change of insurance carriers. It was just done differently. So we're making sure we have our hands around it. We may have under budgeted in one area in the past. Now when we look at the new allocation, we're truing it up or vice versa.
This is our fiscal year that starts in July, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on the city budget presentation? This was one of the things that we decided to add. It was important to me that the council is involved up front with the budget preparation and the budget approval. I wanted to make sure that you guys knew where we were month to month. And this is a document that I asked Ron to come up with, and he came up with, and that's why we're briefing this every month. Okay, moving on, number 9 is going to be 748, donation request, Riverfront. So what you have in front of you is a request for donations for the gala. And one of the things that we've done, we started this year, was a lot of organizations will come to GU and will come to the council. And so we're trying to get our arms around it and only contribute from one source or another. This source, the utility, has purchased a table for the value of about $1,250. So the utility has already provided money to the riverfront. And so, although this came to us and it goes to you guys, my recommendation is that since the utility has already provided money, that the council does not provide money separately to that. Councilor Depot.
My only comment to add to that too is that I know that the Riverfront Children's Center is something that we can support in other ways. And there
Absolutely.
are other organizations that come to us that we can't give time to, or, you know, I know you visit the Children's Center all the time, you know, so I think that in terms of that, we do invest a lot of non-monetary time into
Absolutely.
this. So I think it's not a bad thing to maybe put the money into other organizations where we can't put any time.
Okay.
That's my thoughts.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, moving to the next thing, 763, the memorial bench for Agnes Tompkins. This is a request for the memorial bench. It's a standard request. Any questions on this?
No.
Okay, I need a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of 11/4.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. And lastly, 764, electric boat construction update. This is informing. So, what is about to happen at Electric Boat? Electric Boat, starting November 1st for up to 3 months, is going to be doing some demolition work, meaning explosive work on the land side and in the water side. On the water side, we have no jurisdiction. They will have barges. Coast Guard is involved, other agencies are involved. They will be, what they'll do is they'll come in the morning around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to drill and then to load the explosives, and then at the end of the day to detonate the explosives. The explosives are underwater, so they should be muffled. However, the last time explosives were used down at Electric Boat, you could feel the shock down at Easter Point. So we're notifying people down in that area. Once we get the schedule, we're going to put it on the Facebook page and on our website so that people can be notified. The immediate property owners are being notified by Electric Boat, and we've reached out to Susan Adams to get a copy of the schedule. We've also notified the planner, Felix Reyes, over in New London. We've notified Mayor Pasro's office to let them know, one, for the vibration they may feel, and two, it's important to me, since they're going to be drilling, that there's potential for noise from the air compressors and light pollution across the water while this is being done. So we're notifying our neighbors, we're trying to be good neighbors on this, but this is gonna take up to 3 months in order to get this to explode the shelf and the dredging associated with that, and then the removal of the sludge spoils. So as we know more information, we'll keep you informed and posted. But I wanted to make sure that you guys knew, in the event that any of the your residents come to you and say, "Hey, I heard a china rattle," or "I heard something," or whatever. And that way, now you know. Just want to keep you guys posted.
Mayor, I know you don't have the schedule in front of you, but I imagine this isn't going to go boom in the night, right? This is
No, the restriction is that it would happen during the daylight hours. So that's why they're drilling in the morning, so that they can put the caps and the blasting caps and the lines, the priming lines, primers in there, and then they're going to detonate it probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they said you should see bubbles and things like that, and it should be muffled and muted. So that was good. The other thing, they're going to be drilling. So I don't know where the exhaust to the drill is. I don't know if it's underwater or if they're going to be exhausting it topside. The exhaust of this drill is going to be potentially loud, and the compressor to generate the amount of cubic feet that they're going to need, standard cubic feet of air for the drill is going to be, it can be noisy. And so those were concerns that we had. And then since they're going to be starting early in the morning, they're going to have bright lights. And there's nothing to abate the noise or the bright lights across the water. And so they're going to do the best that they can, but there's potential that we will get feedback. That's what he said.
My only comment would be that we make sure that we get the information to the sources that people are going to call to complain, so police, fire,
Yes.
whoever in the front office answering the phone, so that they're not thrown off.
Absolutely, yes, and we'll probably give that information to customer service as well. I mean, people may reach out to the only numbers that they know.
Right.
I have Jill working with Electric Boat now to try to get this information. As soon as we get it, we'll get it disseminated. I'll disseminate it to you guys, and I'll disseminate it to the different agencies, and we'll put it out so that the public will know. I want the public to know what's going on in their backyard. Okay, I think that is everything on the list. Is there anything else? Okay, hearing nothing, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
You so moved?
second.
We have a motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.